Hello and welcome to the first developer podcast for Mob Entertainment. My name is Brock and I'm the community manager here. And with me, I have...
I'm Dana Willoughby. I'm the game director for Project Playtime.
I'm Addison Wessel, the lead sound designer and lead programmer for Project Playtime.
And first, I have some questions for y'all for the community to get you know more. So, what is the most interesting aspect here working at Mob Entertainment?
The people. Everybody here, it's a great, it's like a family. It's probably the best time I've had my entire life working in any industry. Everybody works so well together. There's a lot of communication that goes on here. We see many great things come from that. So,
same question to you.
Yeah, I'd say the same. The people are great, but I think everyone is also always learning things, whether that's because it's something new they want to try or whether it's a problem that they want to solve that has been a problem in the past. People are always trying to fix things and trying to learn things and better themselves as well as the game.
Right, and what made you choose to work at Mob Entertainment other than a different studio?
To be quite honest with you, that story goes back a couple years to when Zach got a hold of me. So it was on LinkedIn, and then the rest was history. It's been probably the best experience, like I said, of my entire life, and went through so many different positions here. Is just a lot of rapid growth. So that's how it all began.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was searching for jobs, and I was saw this in St. Louis, and I knew I was moving to St. Louis, and I just sort of figured, might as well try. Gaming industry is something I've been interested in, but didn't think I'd get into this early. But I applied. I had an interview, and as he said, the rest is history. I loved the people from the moment I got here. So.
And what is your favorite thing about working on Project Playtime?
It's a multiplayer game, which is where my heart's at. So that's one of the major draws that I had. We do single player games, but my entire life has been working in Unreal Engine and all started in Unreal Tournament. So multiplayer game, there you go.
That's where we all grew from. What's your favorite part about working on it?
Yeah, I guess for the programming side of things, I love the challenge it presents. Multiplayer is a totally different beast than single player games. And so a lot of what I do is sort of fixing a lot of the problems that we've had with developing this, coming from single player games into multiplayer games, and really trying to transition it and look towards the future and make it easy for the future. That's sort of one of my favorite things about working here, working on Project Playtime specifically.
And right now we have some questions from the community. And for you, Dana, I have one from community member Rigby the Ferret. Are you proud of what you've made so far with this game at Project Playtime?
Yeah, I'm definitely proud of where we're at right now, but we always want to be further along. So we're always constantly iterating and changing things and doing quality of life fixes and things of that sort. So going into the future, we expect the game to be even more than what it is now. But am I currently proud of it? Yes, I am.
All right. And then we have one question from the community member Genji. Were there ever any points in Project Playtime, the game, that you didn't know or had doubts about with the direction of where you were going with it, with the gameplay or lore?
Most certainly. That's just all part of the process. Every game that I've ever worked on, every game that anybody else has worked on in this studio, they can all tell you the same thing. It's an iterative process. You're going to find things that work, find things that don't, and you have to go back and fix them. That happens during production. That happens even after production. So, yes.
And we have one question from community member Bonnie. Will there ever be a way for members of the community to submit fan-created maps or any ideas that they have?
That is in discussion. So, yes.
All right.
There's a possibility.
Then we have another question from community member Oversee. Are we ever going to see a new monster or a new one soon?
That is in discussion as well. So yes, we definitely want to add a whole lot more to Project Playtime coming up. I can't get into the details, but I can say if you could probably think of it, it's something we are working on, especially if it's part of the Playtime universe.
And then we have the last question for you from the community member Mr. Motivation. What is the first thing you do with coming up with a new idea that you want to implement to Project Playtime?
The first thing we do is we're right now rapidly prototyping new ideas. So, and to give a little bit of a taste of that, we are rapidly prototyping new game modes. So that's how we go through that process. We test things out thoroughly until we find what we want. When we hit gold, we push forward with that. So that's the main process that we utilize.
Well, thank you. And now we got the questions for you. This is for community member Lazy. How did you learn to program? And if you're self-taught, how can you self-teach yourself? What's the process?
Yeah, actually, my first experience with programming was with Scratch. It's a great resource online for actually programming games. So I made a few things, I found a knack for it, and sort of went from there, taught myself. In high school, I took some classes, programming is art specifically, and my teacher in that was introduced me to processing, which is another great language that really gets you into actual programming. Scratch is made to introduce you to the ideas. Processing is real programming and actually getting into it. And then I did that all through high school, and then went to school at Dartmouth for computer science. So not games programming specifically, but computer science. So that was a lot of math, a lot of sort of getting into the nitty-gritty of it, and then started doing some implementation stuff that was related to games. And when I got here, I sort of learned Unreal Engine on the job, but I had the background in computer science to be able to do that. So my advice, go to Scratch, go to processing, and start teaching yourself.
Start from scratch, yeah?
Yeah.
Then we have one from community member Chef Chrissy Boy. How is it like working as the lead programmer?
Yeah, it's a mix of leading and programming, as the title implies. So sometimes I am out, working with individuals, with the individual game programmers, and sort of helping them out with problems they might be having, or guiding them towards a solution that might work better with the sort of architecture that I've decided for the whole project. And other times it's programming, so I work on some more tasks myself as well. But yeah, generally my work has been mostly creating an idea of how something should go from the design team, and then passing that down to people who are specialists in certain things. So we have a UI programmer, we have someone who's an expert in the game mode, someone who's an expert in sort of the puzzles and stuff like that. So that's what my work looks like usually.
All right. And then we have one question from Square. How do you and your team keep up with fixing bugs and making the game optimized for players?
Yeah, there's constantly a balance between about 5 different things, but bugs are sorted by priority. So when you submit a bug report, our QA team goes and takes, hey, this is a super high priority, low priority, whatever it is. We try to get through all of them, but certain high priority bugs, crashes for example, or game breaking bugs are ultra high priority. So we do that first, and then optimization usually actually doesn't come down to my team. So I believe that Harvey's going to be on later, so he can talk more to the optimization. But a lot of the stuff for us with optimization is handled because we work in C++ mainly.
And then we have one question from Accord the Lucky Fox. What was the hardest thing that you've had to program so far?
There are 2 answers to this. One answer is the hardest system and the thing that has gone through the most iteration, which has been the cosmetics system. There, from the beginning, there were, we just had different colors for the characters, and then it's like, oh, now we want a hat and a shirt and a pants, and now, okay, never mind, we don't want that. Now we want it to be one outfit that you don't have to select things. So it's gone through a lot of iteration, and there's a lot of old code that's still there. So that's been constantly reworked, and now I think we have a pretty good system that works for everyone, that's future-proof. But even still, we're finding things that system is being built on all of the time. And then the other answer is a more small-scale thing, which is whenever you grab something, the hand sort of wraps around it, and that was a pretty difficult math problem to solve. A lot of research went into that, a lot of testing, a lot of fine-tuning. So sort of 2 different answers to that, because I did that and it was done, the hand wrapping, but yeah.
And then so we got the last question for you. This is from community member Moth. I would like to ask, what was the hardest monster to bring to life? And also, which perks and sabotages were hardest to get working?
Yeah, I think that Mommy has been the hardest. The movement, in particular with the grapple, was difficult, but it was also done over the course of about 4 hours. So it did not take that much time, but it was the most difficult because there's a lot of reading through things, a lot of reading through the code. But I will say that I'm pretty much coded Boxy from scratch, and so I'm very proud of that guy. He's my baby. But sabotages-wise, I think that the Living Nightmare sabotage, where everything goes dark, it was the most difficult because it was a collaboration between tech art, level design, environment, and programming. So it was just a lot of communication and a lot of cross pollination.
Yeah.
All right. And that's all the questions we have for you. And the next people we're going to have up are going to be our lead character designs, and we'll bring them on in the next few minutes. Back, we have with us today, we have the lead characters here. And could you introduce yourself?
My name's William Harvey. I'm the lead technical artist here.
My name's James Pelter. I'm the lead character artist here. I also do rigging and whatnot as well.
All right, and what was for you, Harvey, what's the most interesting aspect of working here at Mob Entertainment?
Really, it's a team. Working with other artists, other creative people, and under one unified vision to deliver a product that we're all really happy about.
All right, and what's the most interesting aspect of working here, James?
I would agree with Harvey on a lot of those sentiments. It's always very satisfying to take everybody's work, from the concept artists to the modelers, and even sometimes the VFX artists, like how we had the coin simulations on the plot of the gold pack for the St. Patrick's event. That was one of
pretty
their,
interesting.
Yeah, so it's really awesome getting so many teams' contributions and really bringing it all into one really polished package.
All right. For you, Harvey, and what made you choose to work at Mob Entertainment versus a different studio?
Well, I mean, it really is kind of a similar thing, friendship. Nick, who's our art director, at the time, he was our lead environment artist. I'd known him for a couple of years, and we had worked together on small little projects here and there, and he just asked me to come help him out, and I was happy to do so.
And the rest is history. And for you, James, what made you choose to work at Mob Entertainment versus a different studio?
Well, definitely, I would agree with friends. It goes back like quite a while. I used to work on a lot of these Minecraft animations with people like Andy, Zach, Micah, Seth, Isaac. Just really just grew into this. It's really honestly surreal to think that a few years ago we were all just like sitting in our houses in states away from each other, just making these funny Minecraft animations, and how it just grew into just like one off this after the bigger one and into this one, which is just absolutely insane.
It's been nice to see it grow from where it was to where it is now.
Oh yeah, even just a year ago, it's like
Oh yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then what is your favorite part about working on Project Playtime, Harvey?
Project Playtime is really interesting. It has a very different art feel that's somewhat different than the single player games. There's on my side, I definitely am involved heavily in trying to get the game to run as well as possible. So being networked, being multiplayer offers unique challenges that were funny to tackle.
It's a whole new beast whenever you're building it with multiplayer.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your favorite part about working on Project Playtime, James?
I think would definitely be the live service aspect of it. When it comes to making improvements and whatnot, there's really no reason to make a whole lot of improvements to like single player games like Chapter 2 after they came out. It's like, for instance, there's a section at the end of the Nami Chase where the bridges would like fall apart. that wasn't in the initial launch, and that was added like 2 weeks later. The thing about that though is most people had already played the game in that initial launch period, so not many people really saw that change. But for the playtime, on the other hand, it was there's always room to improve things, so it's always nice to see how people react to these tiny little improvements, like for instance, the new menu character animations, and just like there's always an incentive to just make the game just like better and better. No
Better
matter
each
what.
time. Yeah, because I know a lot of people asked, hey, I want to see my emote, and let it show live, and then brought that in the next thing, and everybody's excited for that.
Definitely, it's like I anticipate that this game is going to look completely different a year from now.
Yeah, I've enjoyed working on every little event that we do. There's always like some cosmetics or something we do with the menu or something that's just a little fun thing to do and see people react to it in the community. It's great.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody's reactions to new events and new playlists and everything we come out. And the first question I have for you, James, what character design would you love to see in this game for any of the monsters, any survivors, or any future cosmetics?
Well, the boring answer is if I come up with a fun idea, then I just like go for it. I really appreciate having that power to like be able to just like really go for ideas. And but on the other hand, I always try and think of ideas that really push the boundaries. It's one thing to have this normal just like outfit. It's like pants, shirts, like it's cool and all, but it's kind of boring in my opinion. I always like trying to go for just really interesting designs and always push what we're capable of. Like for instance, with skins, player skins. Back when we launched, we were stuck with this limitation where we could only do material changes on skins because the models were like attached to each outfit. But we recently made a change where, or this took a lot of work actually, to make it so it was completely separated. So we could have player skins that were completely different. For instance, the skeleton skin. Which is something we wanted to do initially, but just didn't have the capacity to do at the time, but now we do. So, and then we also have some skins upcoming, which like completely replace the legs with like just something else completely. We had like a peg leg that's on the way. It's just like things like that. It's just stuff that we couldn't really do. That I'm always trying to look for new, just interesting ideas to really push the boundaries of what we can do with cosmetics.
That change he's talking about really will bring some. The next season will have some really cool, like the capabilities of things that we can do now for the next season are going to be really. I think the fans will love what we have.
Definitely, a Plausible Pack is a glimpse into that, as we can now do particle simulations
Yeah,
and stuff.
that'll
We
be a
got
big thing too.
a number of cosmetics that TechR has been working on that are really, really fantastic. It has some
Yeah.
really crazy effects.
You feel like you have the freedom to kind of pursue what you want when you come with these cosmetics with kind of your own idea and your own inspiration to them?
Oh, could you repeat that?
So do you feel like you have the freedom to kind of pursue the cosmetic ideas and the feel and flow of kind of how you would want it?
Definitely, and I always try and source ideas from those people around the office. It's like every now and then I'll just like run around, just grab ideas from people, because like I can't come up with everything on my own. It's like I'm not like what's the best way to word it? I like just getting a bunch of different ideas because I just like if all the ideas come from one person, then it's just like
Derivative.
the same thing over and over very much. But it's really always interesting to get ideas from different people and just see how contributions from different areas of experience really, it's just interesting to see how that just elevates everything.
And seeing how getting to see it come to life from everybody's contribution.
Definitely.
Yeah, and for you, Harvey, what was the hardest monster to make for you?
I was really heavily involved in Boxy. I think, Boxy probably was the most difficult thing that we did. There's a lot of elements about Boxy. He was very collaborative. Took kind of all parts of animation, character, tech art, and programming all coming together in unison and harmony to produce what we got from him. But we're really happy with the outcome.
Definitely, and that was usually with like a monster character, it's usually like one person passes it on to the other, one or two people like concept it, maybe one or two people might model it, but it was definitely just like a lot of like very, very collaborative, as Harvey said, as like we had Edelon who did the concepts for it. I did like a rough block out of it in that I passed that to Andy, who actually isn't as involved with the game team, but he still is awesome. So he's the best character rigger I know, and by a long shot. And then I passed the mouth to Benson, who actually delivered a really, really, really fantastic just art direction there, and that really is what inspired me to get him to remake Huggy's Mouth. So it's always just like trying to see how we can just get
Yeah. Everything
cool
we,
directions
yeah,
with
it's like
people.
as we kept, the cool thing is as we kept making Boxy, we kept making him better. We realized that wow, we need to do a pass on Mommy and Huggy. Like I was tasked with doing a lot of his material shaders in his fur, and we ended up reusing like the fur shaders and the fur tools we built for him on doing another pass on Huggy. So that what's really cool is it opens up a lot of really cool future cosmetics, that all kinds of wild cool effects in the fur that will be coming shortly.
It's like he really also reused that third
Oh yeah,
as well.
crazy stuff we can do now.
I feel like that was the hardest because Boxy is a fan favorite of everybody's, so they can see the love and passion that you put into it. And what do you think was the easiest monster to work on?
I would say it's a tie between it's a weird tie between Huggy and Nani, and for obvious reasons. We already had the main models made,
Yeah.
but I would probably say Nani, even though we have run into some really wild animation issues.
Yeah, a lot of the issues between Mommy and Huggy are kind of similar animation wise because of how long the characters are, but Mommy just doesn't have fur.
Yeah, so on the one hand, Nani didn't have fur. That's a huge plus. Thumbs up from me. And we also got an opportunity to really just like clean up that model from Chapter 2, because there were just some issues with it. Like if anyone's seen the face topology through her like really twisted version, it is a yikes. So we got that fixed up, and but yeah. The issues with it though, just the animation issue. It's still an issue with the game today. Is just how big she is, and there's just a lot of clicking issues.
Yeah.
And that's a really difficult thing to tackle. But hopefully, something that we can tackle within the next few months or so. And Huggy, on the other hand, we already had most of the model made for it, but went through a few small passes. We did a third pass with Hardy's new Boxy third shader as well as, but. Yeah, it's really hard to compare the two and how difficult they were. I think they were both easier than Boxy. Let's just say that.
Yeah, the previous work on it. Yeah, and for you, James, how do you come up with such great cosmetics that you'll know that players will equip constantly and they'll be the most popular one?
Well, generally, it just really comes down to just trying things. So sometimes we'll do sets of cosmetics, so just like everything of just things like the word we just use is just gimmicky. I won't go too much into that, but like for example, the robot characters, we really wanted to go for that kind of direction. So just to make it really just appealing. Sometimes it's also just like throwing out ideas. So we might try one-off ideas for characters, skins, like for example, Lunch Boxy, which is a really bizarre skin where it's just boxing made up of different food items. But what I always look for is seeing how people react to those, and that really just tells us whether we should do more of a theme like that. And so it's like we saw Lunch Boxy was really liked, so we're definitely look forward to a food Huggy coming soon for season 2.
Well, because I know I saw some community posts about skin tier, and Boxies were basically all in the S tier. So I think everybody likes Boxy skins. And we got one for both of y'all. Are there any future cosmetics that are either going to be in the toy box of the shop that are going to be more sci-fi?
Definitely.
Personally, one of my favorite types of cosmetics we do are just these hard surface, like the robot ones. We have a really talented artist on the team, Pedro Baltazar.
Yes,
I'm not picking his name up, but very good at like hard surface modeling, and
Pedro's a boss.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of people like any of our like electric hand is one that I worked on. A lot of our like very shiny, glowy, like electric shield sci-fi ones are ones that the fans tend to really like, and that's also really fun to make from a programming side of things. So definitely we'll have more cosmetics like that in the future.
All right. I want to thank you for your time. And we got Harvey, James, thank you. Next time we're going to have our game designers. Welcome back. With me, I have the game designers here that work on Project Playtime. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. I'm Ben. I am the lead game designer on the upcoming Chapter 3, as well as multiplayer since it's released, post-release.
And I'm Mitch. I'm a gameplay and level designer.
All right, for you, Ben, what has been the most interesting aspect of working here at Mob Entertainment?
It's definitely the experimental nature of working here. Everyone we work with here, including myself, obviously, is very young, and but that's a lot of fun because not knowing what you're doing means that you're not really caught up in the minutia of it all. You're not caught up in rules or how it's supposed to be done. You're just trying to figure it out, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of a learning process through it all. Small studio, it's young, trying to make the best products we can. What's the most interesting aspect of working here at Mob?
I'd say the people. There's a wide variety of people, and games are so multidisciplinary. There's a lot of interesting people, a lot of talent, and I feel like I learn new things all the time.
Huh? And what made you choose to work at Mob versus a different studio?
Well, I was going through a phase, I guess, where like career phase where I was putting together like a portfolio, and really the company was so small that the CEO was reaching out to people to offer jobs or interviews, and so they offered to interview me, and I was really surprised that there was a game studio in St. Louis. So I know there were a few, but there's not many, so it was sort of a convenience thing, but I'm really happy to be working here now. I mean, it's grown in an insane amount.
And what made you choose Mob over a different studio?
Kind of a similar thing. They reached out to me, and I really liked the idea of working at a smaller studio, especially a newer one that had so many new things upcoming with it. Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit more personal, smaller studio versus somebody you'll never see on the other side of that campus.
Right.
You know everybody next to you. And then what is your favorite thing to work on when it comes to Project Playtime?
For me, it's definitely the levels. I started out as a level designer, and I have a lot of fun whenever it's time to start brainstorming a new level.
And what is your favorite thing about working on the chapters?
The chapters. It's the puzzle design, the game mechanics that go into the puzzles, which I won't go too far into. I know there's a question on that later.
Yep.
So.
All right, and first, we have a question for you, Ben. What is your thought process on designing mechanics and puzzles for Project Playtime?
So I think really it's a process of simplifying it is what we try to do whenever we're in the design room, because when you're looking at like a finished product, like a game that you really love or were inspired by when you were a kid, for me that's like the Portal series. It can be like really daunting when you look at it and thinking that you're gonna like try to replicate that or take what you loved about that and put it into your game without it just being like a carbon copy or something like that. That can be really hard. So really the goal is always to simplify, and I think how you do that is you think about how the game, of course, wasn't a finished product when it was first started or conceptualized even. It was just like Portal was just portals. They were just shooting portals around like something that looked like the Minecraft Netherworld or something. It wasn't Aperture Science or anything. So you just start with a component of it. You say this is something interesting, and then you make more components. And the goal is to sort of just make a bunch of really simple components that make sense to people, that make for interesting visuals, that are fun to control, and the components being able to interact with each other is what makes puzzles possible, really. So that's sort of the thought process. It's just reverse engineering things that you really like, looking at the components, taking pieces of components from multiple games and seeing which ones are able to work together. Because you're never going to ever come up with anything truly original, but you can combine components in new ways, and so that's sort of puzzle design to me.
Well, that's stuff taking inspiration from games you played, just make the best possible puzzle that you feel like the players would enjoy.
Yeah.
And then we got another question for you is, will there be any more complicated mechanics versus the ones that we have right now?
Yeah, definitely. We learned a lot from our previous releases, including the release just came out in December. Yeah, really, I think the reason why there weren't maybe like I would say like portal level puzzles in the original games was really just probably just a lack of resources. We don't have that now. Now we have plenty of resources, so we're putting all of our resources right back into the game, and we really have some really interesting puzzles and mechanics, new exciting mechanics lined up for Chapter 3, and all we've been doing for a while now, the design team, we've just been in a room just experimenting with what is the next fun mechanic, game mode, things like that, characters, what are the fun new things that we want to add to Project Playtime. So all the games have a lot of exciting things coming up.
Yeah, want to make sure it's the most entertaining and best product you can give to our community.
Absolutely.
I got a question for you, Mitch. Are there some things in Project Playtime you wanted executed differently?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the game had a very short development time frame, so there's a lot of things that we wanted but couldn't make it in. For me, the biggest thing is the maps. They were made, like when they were first made, a lot of the mechanics either didn't exist yet or were very different. So they're not, there's things I would have changed about them, you know, with knowing what I know now about what the game would be. So like for one thing, jumping wasn't really a thing early on. So then like later when that got added, that added a whole bunch of places you could get to that you weren't supposed to. And which is something we're still dealing with really. But you know, but I'm excited going forward with like with the new map that we're working on, that should hopefully, you know, address a lot of those issues.
Feel like you make the best level you can, the community member plays it, all of a sudden they've gotten to an area you didn't expect them to.
Yep. Level
Always
design
happens.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have another question for you, Mitch. In the future, at some point in time, will there be an updated UI with what we currently have?
Yes, that's an easy question. Yes. Again, there's a lot of things we wanted to have polish-wise for the UI, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works with that right now. The UI team is working on you know, a lot of overhauls kind of across the board.
I got one for you, Ben. Will there be any more movement mechanics like the rolling that we have? Anything that vaulting over objects or able to grab onto an object to move it?
Yeah, that's been part of our experimental thing we're doing. We've been playing with lots of movement mechanics, and we're all a big fan of movement mechanics. You know, we can't really say which ones we're going to put out yet. Don't want to make any promises, but we have plenty in the works.
I know I've seen a lot of people have fun with watching the gameplay and just seeing boxy kind of Spider-Man around the map.
Yeah.
I know I've gotten some good laughs out of that here at the studio. And then we have last one for you, Mitch. What is the most challenging issue you've had when it comes to game design coming with Project Playtime or the chapters?
This is a good question. I mean, game design and just game making in general is a very complicated and involved process. You know, it requires a bunch of different departments with a bunch of different skill sets, all relying on each other. And so keeping everyone in communication and on the same page is an ongoing thing. For Project Playtime in particular, I think the short development window was tricky, but that's the cool thing about this team being so agile and so, you know, new and creative. You know, we kind of change our process and adapt really well.
And I'll say, what has been something exciting that you've loved to make, or something that you've had out that you feel the community has enjoyed the most?
Let's see, I don't want to just say the maps again, but you know, I do like the maps. I mean, I just really enjoy the game. I really enjoy the chase in the game, both as a monster and as a survivor. Yeah.
Same question to you.
I remember, so I was actually the programmer on the project before designer, while the project was being made originally, and I was really excited to have the grapples in the game because it was a huge challenge to actually program those in a multiplayer game. But yeah, I'm biased.
feel like everybody likes grapple hooks in every game.
Yeah.
And do you feel you like where the game's at right now from a designer standpoint? Or is there anything that you would love to see?
For me, I do like where the game is at right now. I think there's a lot of balancing still to be done. And a lot of the new features that we have upcoming in the next few months, I think are going to help a lot with really rounding out the game. But I mean, you can speak more to that as well.
I mean, even though I think we're all like proud of what we were able to do in say like 8 months or so, but we have a lot we want to do to the game. We can see a lot of issues, everything that the community talks about. You know, we see that and we notice it too when we play test every single day. And overall proud of what we did, but we're going to be doing a lot more to make it better.
I want to thank you for your time. We'll be right back with the QA team that I know everybody's going to love to meet. Welcome back to the Developer Podcast. With me, I have the QA team. If you'd like to introduce yourself first.
Hello, I'm Lane.
I'm Justin.
All right, so we got some questions for you. What is the most interesting aspect of working here at Mob Entertainment?
I'd say the most interesting aspect is being able to see the creative process of the game. I think it's super interesting to see like the passion of the project, and being able to be next to that every day is freaking amazing.
What's the most interesting aspect for you?
I would argue the same thing. It's very nice to see the creative process of so many different people, especially coming from a college where it's very kind of like minds, but then being able to talk to the art department, see what they think of things, or the audio team, or the animators, and just seeing what is going on in their head of like where they think would be cool, and then be like, oh, that's awesome, and then seeing that creative process is really cool and amazing.
And what made you choose Mob Entertainment over a different studio?
It was definitely a bit of convenience. I applied to some companies around the country, never really heard anything back, but it was just really bonus that they were also in my hometown, that I was like, oh, I can actually just drive there. That's awesome, and I don't have to move anywhere. It was a big bonus.
That is nice whenever it's convenient. And what made you choose Mob Entertainment over a different studio?
A little bit of a ditto of that, but other than just it being convenient and being in St. Louis, because I didn't want to move to the West Coast. That would not have been so fun. Sorry for anyone listening in California. But other than that, I heard from a couple other friends who graduated and came here that it was a good place to work, and they were really fun, and I wanted to then start my career with a place that I could be happy to come to work, and I can genuinely say I'm very happy to come to work here, and it's very nice.
We do enjoy your company and your memes.
I try.
And what is your favorite thing about Project Playtime?
I'd say it's a very fun game. Like, it tries to take a spin on like the genre while still trying to be a multiplayer game. Like, it is, I think, a really fun game, especially like the different aspects of it, and we are constantly trying to evolve the game and things like that. It's very interesting to see like it go from like starting out to one thing and then we get to do something else. But I would say for me, definitely like Survivor is really fun because I'm better at Survivor than Monster.
We do have some people in the studio who are really good at monsters that we can't beat. I don't think we've ever beat her in that game, ever. And what is your favorite thing about Project Playtime?
I would say there's a bit of both. So for Survivor, I love the cool moments where someone's distracting the monster and the other person is doing puzzle pillars and like saving other people, and like I'm like that guy that's taking the bullet and driving them away because I'm really good at chasing, evading, and avoiding. There are several people here who refuse to chase me now because I'm getting pretty dang good at it. But then, of course, as the monster, it's really satisfying to then do the complete opposite. Find that guy that was really destroying me and, kicking my butt, and then I just absolutely wreck them, destroy them, put them in the hole, do a little bit of the fun stuff like that. But that's just what I really like about the game.
Right. So the first question we got here is, do you ever get annoyed, or are there any bug reports that are in Project Playtime that you just think, we fixed this before, houses keep popping up?
I'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, it's a lot. The bug reports can be a bit overwhelming, but we do in fact read them. We read every single one of them as they come in. It can get a little bit overwhelming, but when you see a lot of the same thing, it's kind of like known issue. We're mainly looking for the ones that are kind of like, oh, that's still happening, or oh, that was an old bug that should have been fixed. Why is this still happening? It's kind of going through, but I mean, I think it's very nice when developers make that an option for the fans to be able to report bugs, because I think that is important to the design of a multiplayer game, is getting the feedback and the input, because we run on fairly good specs. It's kind of hard for us to sometimes see some of the bugs that if you're running on an average Joe computer at home you might experience, but we don't. So that is very important.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, it's very nice not only for the community to have the engagement, but like even like in the Discord server today, there was somebody who figured out how to get behind the train tracks. I've never experienced that. I don't know how they did it, and they gave an in-depth report. So it's really nice to kind of see developers like us like actually care and want to see their community grow and thrive by responding and like being active and wanting to help.
Yeah, it is nice whenever you have the community to be able to play test your games, because you're looking at it from a design standpoint and you think this is a great idea, and then they break it in 5 minutes.
Yes.
That is always something you like and hate at the same time. When you do bug test, how easy is it for you to find bugs? And if so, what do you do normally to find those bugs?
I'd say, the games usually on our beta especially, it is typically lots of things are just broken in general. You normally walk around, you normally try to play the game like normal, and it's like, oh, can't go in a locker, oh, can't pick up a toy, oh, I can't actually die. And it's usually really basic stuff that you find like right away that it's like, oops, this didn't get put in there. Very basic stuff that you think always goes in there, but sometimes it doesn't.
Someone forgot that checkbox. It's
Yeah.
always a checkbox.
Yes, there is, and I kind of similar process. Other than checking core functionality, I'm like, oh, that thing that you just added, yeah, that broke everything, and then go back to the developer and there's, but then like taking that and being like, the developer told me to play like this way, then I go the exact opposite way, and really be the monkey with the wrench and break it as much as I can, and like why would you do this backwards? Why would you do that? And it's like, I don't know, because I can, and then figure out creative, unique ways to then find those bugs and then report them, and they're like, oh, well, that's cool, and then moving forward having it fixed so it doesn't happen for the majority of the people.
I remember one QA member, I'm pretty sure it was you, that says when you first started QAing, doing bug testing, the first thing you do is just smash the keyboard.
Yes.
See what breaks, see what doesn't break.
Exactly.
You never know. Do everything they don't expect.
Exactly. Yep. That's what I do. Mash the keyboard, see what I can do. So far, I just opened up a bunch of menus and changed some settings that I had to take a while to fix. But yeah.
I'm notorious for getting Boxy stuck. I literally made it my life's mission after I found out he can get stuck certain places. I found every nook and cranny he could possibly get stuck in.
And then I tell the game designers, hey, you got to extend this wall. You got to extend this wall. I was able to get in there. I'm breaking your game. And then you're the worst nightmare for game designers.
Oh yeah, no, and everyone's like, why would you break that? Oh yeah, it's your job.
Right. We got the next question is, which one of you on the QA team makes the best memes?
Well, I would say it's definitely a combination of both of us. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. It's definitely a combination of comedic timing and what's being hot and what we're seeing in the builds that's just funny. We saw one where all the toy parts were being like meshed into like a glob, and it looked hilarious. So then like Lane snapped it and then made a meme from it, or there'll be some certain things other people do that it just that comedic timing is paramount to get those nice memes.
Then it helps whenever you've like looked at memes your whole life and you go through your mental library of like what to pick out and what
Right.
to like use for it. Like I've used the Timmy Turner dad one. I've used I like using Mom I Threw Up a lot. That one's one of my favorite ones. Especially like just seeing, it's really easy, especially when things are bugged. You can just put like a random caption over it that isn't even related, but just makes it funny.
So now part of the QA job is bug testing and then making memes out of the bugs you find.
Exactly.
Always.
They gotta know. They gotta know
It's
somewhere.
integral.
Right. And now, when you're testing new updates and mechanics, how many bugs do you typically encounter per test? And do you keep a notepad to the side, or how do you really track these bugs when you report them back to designers?
Yeah, so it depends on if we're trying something really experimental that is in its early phases. We can probably find upwards of 10 or like 5 to 10 in that range. But if it's really just like more going from that experimental phase to like kind of the polishing phase, it then kind of narrows it down to like 2 or 3. And we then take that, and we don't necessarily have a notepad next to us to kind of notate things. We typically record what we see, and then we upload it, and then we upload that video to our bug submission form, and then that again gets shot out to developers that was either in charge of making it or someone of that nature, and then it gets fixed from there.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what goes on. It's kind of hard to say like a number because I really don't keep track. But there are some days where I go through and it's like oh bug, and you have to actually like sit down and like write the reports for all of them. And it gets kind of tedious sometimes. You have to go and make sure you get screenshots. You have to take a video of like make sure you know what's happening. You have to make sure it uploads properly, that your file doesn't get corrupted from making it to like uploading it. And then, but if it's like a serious enough issue, like, you're trying to play test something and you shoot your hand and just fatal error crashes the game, that's when you just walk straight up to Addison and you're like, it doesn't work. And he's like, dang it.
And what is your favorite part about being on a QA?
I like the idea of just visualizing myself as that monkey with the wrench breaking everything, and just having that disappointed owner, which is the coders and developers, just go, come on, dude, why'd you do that? But no, it's really nice. But in all seriousness, it's really fun to see the game in its early phases and then help be part of the team that polishes it. To then see something go out that's like I thought that was a really good idea, and then it got pushed out, and then the community loves it, and it's just a very gratifying feeling. But yeah.
What's your favorite part?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a part of the creative process. Like I know Dana, he's typically, whenever they are trying something new, he comes to us first. And it's like, do you guys like this? And we will tell him like, maybe it needs to be worked on a little bit, but we are trying to put ourselves in the shoes of like the kids that are playing it, and like the audience that we are trying to reach. And you have to like kind of, especially since we're much older now, you have to kind of like reach back and be like, well, what would have been really fun when I was like 12 years old?
And for this, what is your least favorite part about QA?
It's gonna sound a little bad, but it's sometimes going the bug reports can be very tedious because a lot of them by nature are repetitive. People are seeing the same thing or like of issues that are going on. Like a while back, there's issues with cosmetics not properly appearing, and we saw like hundreds upon hundreds of reports, and then sprinkled in was the actual like other ones we didn't know about. So that was kind of the least favorite part of it. But again, not them saying that's bad, not them saying that you shouldn't do that. Absolutely, if you see a bug, report it. We need to know, especially because you might think, oh, everyone's seeing this, but you might be the one that's doing it. So very much so, keep reporting them.
And then let's say, what is your favorite bug reports you've read? Because I know we've seen our fair share of interesting and weird bug reports.
Well, on the official side of things, my favorite things are the ones that actually help us. But on the unofficial thing, some children or kids or guys or girls, whoever it is, are pretty creative and funny when they want to respond. I know some people have very strong opinions about the game, and they'll post some little images in there, which will give me a little chuckle, and then I'll be like, "That was cute." Delete. But yeah, it's just sometimes you get a little fun.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that you just go through that you're like, this is a waste of my time, but it'll be funny. It'll be like, what are the device specs? Your mom. Like those kind of ones. I mean, you do laugh at them. And then sometimes they upload stuff. Like there's been one that the guy accidentally uploaded like his Minecraft skin in the PNG. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, you can unattach it. But I do have to remember that these are mainly kids that are doing it. But it's just those kind of things that it's like, well, at least you tried.
True. And if people want to QA test the game, what do you think is the best process for them if they want to submit bugs or they want to help you and make your job a little bit easier?
Definitely be as detailed as possible. So like, for example, if you got stuck in the floor, don't say, I got stuck in the floor. Try and say, I got stuck in the floor of Zone 3 in the toy factory after Boxy jump scared me while I was crouching. Like, that's extremely detail oriented, and we don't have to sit there and go, you were in Zone 3. What did you do? So being as detailed as possible really helps out our team and helps speed up that process so we can get the reported and fixed as soon as possible, for sure.
Yeah, same with the device specs. I know sometimes people think it's not important, but it really is, especially when it comes to like things that are actually in the game, because if your specs are sort of subpar, we need to know that in order for us to optimize the game better, because if you're running on, say, like an Intel i3, there's a good chance it won't be able to process the actual colliders that are there when you get slam dunked by a monster, and that's information we need to know. I know sometimes people put there like none of your business, but it is our business. You don't need to put your entire computer ID in there, but you just need to put like what processor and like what graphics you're using, and it's really easy to find. And if you don't know how to find that, there's tons of stuff on like videos on Google that can show you like how to find that.
Yeah, processor, graphics card, RAM, those are the big three. If you're running on Windows 8, 9, 10, whatever, that's, or 8, 7, 8, or 10, that's not necessarily as important, but definitely processor, graphics card, RAM. Those are the big three we care about, so we can make sure that it isn't a hardware issue, it's something that is more relevant to the code of the game.
Yeah, an actual bug or an actual issue they found, because we want to optimize it, make sure that everybody can play this game no matter the device they have.
Yeah,
And that's where your job comes in, and we really thank you for that.
appreciate it.
And then for next, we'll have our producer on. Before that, we'll be right back. I'd like to welcome you back. to the developer podcast we have here. I'd love to introduce the man who makes everything work and go around. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Sir Chad. I am the producer here at Mob Entertainment.
All right. And what is the most interesting aspect you found here working at Mob?
Well, the most interesting people is probably the people I know. A lot of people said that today, but the passion that all of the staff here has, and it levels through all the different disciplines. What they can accomplish is exponential. They keep surprising me every single day on what they want to do and pull. And my job's to making sure that it kind of fits into a window to being able to release on time and doing all that stuff. And I love creative ideas, and this space is entirely filled with it.
I know every day you see somebody make something new, and you're just like, I don't know where that came from, but keep doing that, keep making that. This is fantastic.
Yes.
The next question is, what made you choose Mob Entertainment over a different studio?
That is a phenomenal question. I've been doing games for over 13 years, and what made me come here was I focus a lot on independent over my career, and so this really felt like a natural next step, right? A lot of the studio is, I think Ben specified earlier, a lot of younger talent, and being able to allow my expertise and understanding of the development process and being able to educate and increase the level of quality that Mob can push out in the products that we make. And I think being able to step into that has been exponentially amazing, and then it's been able to be digestible and being taken in by all the different departments, all the leads in every different facet of the company.
And then, what is your most interesting thing or something that you like most about Project Playtime?
I think the most entertaining piece is the community.
They are fantastic.
They a lot of my day is reading conversations between the different departments and how they're progressing. But part of my day is reading the Discord and in reading all of the theorized potential about Chapter 3 and Project Playtime and reading conversations and being able to be engaged into those social aspects, right? Because of what Addison specified earlier is this is a live service game, and it's a very different piece than something with Chapter 3. And so the passion that the community has for this intellectual property and the projects that we make is it just what makes it entertaining.
Yeah, the community makes it popular, makes it go around. Just something I feel like we'd really enjoy. And then we got some questions for the community. How are you able to create such a good schedule? This person says that they find themselves struggling just to edit a video.
Sure. So schedule is an interesting piece. Time management is very important. Because I've been doing this for so long, right, understanding from a high level of how long something can be able to be done, right? Even when coming into a place like Mob Entertainment, there's already a process, there's already ways that they're already doing things. And how can I streamline, how can I make it better? Because, pushing a schedule of 1-2 months or putting a proper place in place of doing proper pre-production on a project, doing proper production, right? Those are game development core processes that need to be in place, so it doesn't feel rushed, right? The fact that they'd be able to push out Project Playtime, back in December, and only work on a live service multiplayer game in 7-8 months is crazy, right? And so now what we're looking at is we're kind of looking at the whole process and how do we improve it to make it better, right? Look at all the feedback that we're getting from the community, looking at all the quality of life things, right? All of these pieces need to come into consideration. As I said, Addison said earlier, there's a priority of 5 things that we look at every single day. And so when we look at the schedule, we understand how do we put this, does this fit in greater of this, of all the new mechanics and all the things that the designers are working on, right? All that falls into this category of what comes out first, right, versus something else.
Yeah, trying to figure out what great design concept they have here, but is this in the timeline? Is this in the budget? Is this something we need to scrap?
Correct.
You have a good idea with that, and making sure everything is going the correct timeline to make sure we bring out the best product for the community.
Because there's a balance of making something that we currently have and making it better for the community, right? And making sure the stuff that we did for the St. Patty's Day update last week, right, is exponentially better as we're moving through these, live events and these events that we're trying to do, all of these different social aspects. And so they're aware of what's kind of coming and being able to do this. This is one of those pieces that be able to communicate to them on things are moving here and we're listening and we're hearing you, right? Even QA team says that, how much visibility that the community's feedback comes into the office.
Yeah, it's important that we get the feedback from everybody. So every feedback, no matter what you put, we read it. We make sure that we write it down. We make sure we got it ready to go to send to our game design team, the QA team, to make sure we have the best feedback possible, because the community is what makes the game. Next question I got for you: what was your initial reaction to the popularity upon release for the chapters and then Project Playtime?
I think it was an interesting take because I initially heard about the IP and the game back in the day, but never really found how deep and passionate it is and what of a global phenomenon it is, our community and our fans all across the world, right? And where I think this IP does really well in is surprisingly in where it connects with, right? Our goal is to look at these elements and making sure that we're always focusing on what our community wants. We're listening to them. At the same time, we're raising the quality of the IP, right? And focusing on what is going to make Project Playtime stand out, as well as Poppy's Playtime. So looking at both of those and how do we increase the quality of those.
Yeah, it's good to look at every chapter, every iteration of every update you put out, see what the fans think about what they like the most, and make sure the next time you put out an update or you put out the chapter, it's of higher quality and of a higher standard than the previous updates.
I mean, if you compare even from chapter 1, right, to chapter 2, right, of just when you play it, right, it's very straightforward. Like I said, it's a lot of internal, it's very much a walking simulator, and what they were able to do increase in quality of the game design process and what you can do from puzzle design into chapter 2, and it's going to be even taken even further into chapter 3 and what that can do. And so
The next question is, did you have any difficulty when it came to creating the game, and how was your team able to overcome those challenges?
I think I have to give a shout out to all of the leads and the project management staff here, because the communication and the ability to get things done, right? When I came in to support being able to put in new process, right? All of the people here are extremely passionate for these two projects. And so it was very easily to kind of light that fire, right? They want this project to be successful. They have an ownership in that piece. Their voice connects them to that piece. And so as a company, there's a great degree of buy-in in whether that you're on the game side or you're on the business side, right? All of it gains to ownership into how well this project does.
Yeah, and it's good to know with a young team that we have, you have somebody like you with all the experience that's been there for a AAA, indie, startup. You have the experience in all these different arrays of games and studios, and able to bring your input to these kind of studios that are smaller in scope.
But I think the big thing is unlocking individuals' potentials, right? And you're going to see that through as we go through project updates and content that we're pushing out. You're also going to see that quality increase when it comes to the chapters, right? And how we continuing to tell that story, right? All of that is going to see that when you compare to something prior to when you look at December's release for Project Playtime, and so once we communicate when the next season comes out for there, you're going to see an exponentially difference, right? You're going to see that difference from chapter 3 to chapter 2, right? Because the quality of the talent is increasing, the type of talent is being added into. We're hiring all the time. We're increasing what's happening here at the studio. So
just like when it comes with the updates and making Project Playtime and the chapters better, we always want to make sure that our designers are getting better every time.
Yep.
With them getting better, things come out faster.
Yep.
Things come out faster, people are happier.
agree.
And a better quality game is better. The next question I have for you is, does the team have any solid timeline or roadmap for the future of Project Playtime that they plan on sticking to, and if possible, will that ever become public for them to see?
Yes. So one of the things that I'm helping champion is a proper roadmap, specifically for 2023. There's a lot of things that are in queue that we're actively working on, and I want to be able to tell you all of the things. Trust me, but at the same time, you have to understand that, you know, we want to be able to communicate the right content in the right way. You know, a lot of us are, biting the bullet and trying to like be able to be passionate about it. But what I can tell you is there is a roadmap. There is documentation. There is a graphic that will come out in said time, and it will communicate a lot of elements that we want to do for Project Playtime.
Is that something specifically going to come out during beta and alpha phases of Project Playtime, or something more along the lines of when there's full release?
It will come out within this year, for sure. You'll be able to see the roadmap of 2023 this year at some point in time in said future, as we want to do. Like I said, it's something that, when I came on early in the year, of being able to help communicate, and so the community understands of like what's happening to the game. They did a big accomplishment in December, and so we just need to do a better job at like showing them that what we're working on.
Yeah, because transparency is important to the community. We want to make sure that we give everything out with what we want to come out, make sure it comes out, right date lines, make sure we come out and have the best product for our community, just to make sure we follow that roadmap, keep true to it, and have the best product.
I mean, the big thing, give yourself a shout out, like you being a specific role into this process, right? Being a voice for the community so they can come and have those conversations with you, helping that piece, because you're going to be the first person to do those things, and you're going to rock to my office like, hey, guess what? This is what's going down, because we've had those conversations already,
Yep.
right? So, and that's what I like about, because I'm being able to understand that they might be addressing something that we could be focusing a little bit better on or trying to piece.
It's been very nice where a community member has a question or has an idea or something like that. I can get it from my computer, walk across the studio, talk to the design team, art team,
Yep.
programming team. Hey, this is a bug or this is a feature they would like. It's really nice because that's what I feel is the best part about this team, the young team, small team, wanted to make something they're passionate about.
Yep, 100%.
And then I got one. Is there going to be, or going to be any more tapes or VHSs that we've had in the past, and any connection with the lore between the chapters and Project Playtime with those VHS tapes?
There is strong conversations about what the tapes are and how they're influencing to the lore itself for Project Playtime, and we definitely will see the next phase of that hopefully very soon.
A lot of people are very passionate about this because people love lore.
Oh no,
and the more
it
lore
is.
you have.
I mean, you saw the video that we released on teasing Chapter 3, and it's been one of our highest grossing videos at all. Right, the marketing people and the people that support all of those pieces. It's a very well thought out piece and executable plan, and we will continue to do those pieces, and we'll continue to dive even deeper and to spawn interesting questions about what's coming and what's happening, and we're going to continue to do those things because that's what makes our community passionate and hungry.
All right. And I have one last question for you right now. For somebody that wants to pursue being a producer or somebody that wants to pursue game design, how hard is your job, and what is probably the hardest aspect of it?
So a lot of my job specifically is a lot of people management and understanding what can be done in an effective timeline. So understanding a lot of bigger picture and like looking at how you deal with different archetypes of individuals, how you communicate to people is super important. I enjoy being on the camera. I enjoy talking to people. It's something that separates myself from others. But it's a thing of making a communication is extremely important to what we try to do because when you're dealing with different disciplines, right, having artists talk to programmers or designers talking to QA, right, we want to make sure that those are as seamless as possible, because that's how you get things done. And when issues lie and they fall into the wrong category, problems can come up, and I can have entirely departments that are fighting because they expect that something over here to be working one way, and the other department is expected to be working somewhere else over here. And so they're like, I thought this is what we're doing. No, we're doing this. And I'm like, no, you need to follow the plan because one person's following this, it's not. And so the goal is to kind of make sure there's a complete sync there.
Yeah, you kind of make sure everybody is following the exact path that you have. That'll make sure we stay on schedule, stay on what we want to release. You're just kind of making sure stay on this path. Don't veer off, or else everything's going to take longer.
Yeah, I mean, you can go through like the technical answer of like there's certifications and there's schools out there that you can take to focusing in on the specific discipline, but it's definitely people management as well as project management is super important.
Yeah, that's very important, and we do have a fantastic project manager. Thank you, Kay.
Thanks, Kay.
And that's a few questions they have for me. How has it been so far being a part of the community? Y'all are an interesting bunch, I'll say that for sure. There's been a lot of times I'm trying to catch up with, since the community's been around for so long, just trying to figure out everything that people are talking about, seeing the things that they're passionate about, seeing the things that they like, seeing every day people on, seeing what times they're on, being able to communicate with everybody, because I have a passion for interacting and communicating with people to make sure I know what they love, to make sure I know what they like most about the game, what they like most about our community, what I can do event-wise to bring more fun and more passion to our fan base, to make sure that they feel that they're involved in the process of us making the game, to make sure we have the best product for them. And some other questions is how often do you plan to do these dev podcasts? I would say at the moment, anytime we have a major update or something we plan on releasing, most likely we'll have the podcast around those times or in the middle of when these updates come out. So that's when you can plan to see them more, but we have some more planned in the future that we want to release as well. And then another one is, how often does your team gather and incorporate feedback from the community during the developing process? That's a bit of going to the channels, going to Steam forums, Reddit, all different kinds of forums and YouTube videos from content creators, and going out there and figuring out what they're talking about, taking their videos of bugs, taking the feedback from Discord and seeing what's talked about most, which bug is mentioned the most, and make sure I can relay that to the correct teams to make sure that that process is done. We've hit these bugs. We made sure that whatever the community is talking about most is being worked on efficiently and as quickly as possible. And another one was somebody asked if we ever plan to collaborate with different studios, kind of how Dead by Daylight does. Do you think we ever have any plans for that?
I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, a lot of bigger studios, I think there's so much potential that Project Playtime can do. I definitely don't want to like shoot it down and it's not a piece that could happen, but I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept. When it comes to these podcasts as well, every single time we'll make sure to have community questions as well as questions from the chat, which we're about to get to right now.
Yeah, so we were facilitating a lot of the top tier questions. I have a few that were here, and I will answer the ones that I feel confident to control. So a lot of you guys are asking about, of course, the big piece, right? Chapter 3. We're not ready to communicate a set stone on its release time, but as other people have said, it's something that we're working on, and looking at its production, we want to make sure it's done correctly and it's done right, because you're gonna, as I mentioned earlier, the quality of Chapter 3 you will, as a user, as a community, you will see the increased quality of that project.
Yeah, I feel like people just want to make sure they got the best game, and we want to make sure that we produce the best game possible for our community.
Yep. And so the next big one was Project Playtime Mobile. Is it a thing? Is it coming? It is an active piece that we are trying to facilitate and get done. As you know, we've listened to the community, and when we're at a point being able to like really show it off or display where we're at, we'll be able to do that. just making sure that they understand that we're listening. But game development it takes time. It's not something that you can flip a switch and be like, oh, we're doing a thing, right?
Very
Because
tedious.
the community needs to understand that we're now we're not only making Poppy's Playtime, but now we're making Project Playtime, right? Both are valued IP here, and we're trying to progress both down a development timeline and understanding resources and understanding what can we do and to make an effective schedules.
Yeah, and to make sure that people who don't have the most high-end PC are able to play the game.
Yep.
I know that's something that people really are passionate about the game, but they just don't have the ability to play the game. That's why we want to make sure we will have it optimized, it's ease of access, and everybody can play it.
Yeah, and so an interesting one that was thrown in chat was we were talking a little bit about marketing earlier, right? Lore videos. The last one was done respectively well, right? How do we make those lore videos? Not getting into the nitty gritty pieces, right? But there's a pre-production that happens to understand what we're trying to communicate in that story, and then being able through the iterative process to put together from storyboards to understanding the quick snapshots of like how we're putting that piece together, right? What that looks like. There's feedback not only from the animation team, but also the game team and purely in the marketing edge, right? All of that goes into play and making sure that everyone here is passionate about what we're launching and releasing. When we launched the whole lore video, only a certain select people got to see that, and blew everyone out of the water once the Kissy Missy trailer came out. So it's very interesting on how they accomplish those pieces, because that was one of the things that I loved about it, and how their like classically old school take on these pieces really separates Project Playtime and Poppy's Playtime away from other different studios.
Yeah, I feel like every single time we've released one, it's just been better and better each time.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part is seeing all the theories and videos people make as soon as these drop.
That was a great thing, because it was like I knew something in the last video, and a lot of people here didn't do it, and so I was like, remember I told you, I was like, hey, this is going to be a thing. Tell me how long it's going to take before someone notices this particular piece. It took them 9 minutes.
Yes, about 9 minutes, and they were already posting it everywhere. And I was like, oh wow, we thought that would take maybe like an hour, maybe a day.
Yeah.
Nope, it took 9 minutes.
Yeah, 9 minutes. So that goes back because they're passionate.
We got the investigator hats on.
Yeah, that's good. So which is good. It was asked earlier. Dana kind of asked a question, or was asked this question for new monsters, right? For Project Playtime, there are new that we're trying to get done and facilitate. We're not at liberty to kind of discuss and talk about what's happening. There's a lot of big picture things that we're doing for Project Playtime, and we want to be able to convey that in its proper time. But there's a lot of things being considered. Let's see. We already kind of talked about making announcements about roadmaps. One of the things that was asked was why do we make Project Playtime or Poppy's Playtime? I think to not only just that eliminate the project itself, but understand like why do we make the games that we do, right? Mob, we want to focus on a lot of how we develop our story and being able to be story-driven things and feeling that people can feel connected to, right? And understanding and feeling that drive to understand more, right? We're talking about the lore videos and all these pieces of like how do all of this come together. It's just something that the studio does extremely well, and it will not only influence this but other things that we do in the said future. So that's really one of the things that like drives this piece is the story and how we communicate what we're building to the community.
Yeah, I feel like the lore and story aspect of it is extremely important, and I feel like they've done a great job throughout the chapters.
And so, this is an interesting. What character do you relate to the most?
What character I relate to the most? I think probably Bunzo Bunny. For the times of playing the games and playing the chapters, I feel like I connect with him the most. Because I feel like I just enjoyed it the most. I feel like I could relate to him just because of his general humor and aspect in the game during his time to the puzzle.
Yeah, I really feel that like even from a kind of a unique story point but the piece of the survivor, right? The odd character out, the new piece to the puzzle. Even when we were playtesting here, right? there's so much potential that we can have with the character that we're focusing and trying to work through. I think it's going to be an interesting how Project Playtime kind of evolves.
Yeah, and we're hopefully that you're along for the ride. We have one other question for, are there any other planned events, like things like this, playing along with the community and other things like that? Yes, there are. Just takes a little bit of time to make sure they work, to make sure that we have the best quality and the best standard that we can have and have the most fun with you as a community.
Yep, and we appreciate the time today.
Mm-hmm. And if you see anything that we're wearing or you like, they're on the Playtime store, as well as other things you see here. Hat coming soon. If you like the jacket, there's also one there.
Yep, new jacket coming soon.
I want to thank you for your time and everybody that was here. We're hoping to have another podcast as soon as we can.
Yep,
I want to thank you for your time and thank you to the community for stopping by.
sweet. Thanks a lot, everyone.